if the loss to Edmonton, but specifically the power play, in the words of Vince Dunn, was awful, what do we make of a 6-4 loss to the Anaheim Ducks?
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, Seattle hockey fans, it's another episode of Locked On Kraken. I am not wearing the UMA hat, which means we are not 2 of our last 3. In fact, we're 0-2. And some big news about Philip Grubauer. I am going to talk about Philip Grubauer. We've been talking about Philip Grubauer, but in case you did not hear the news, Philip Grubauer placed on waivers with the intention of reassignment to the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Again, I want to do a separate episode on that because I have a lot of thoughts. I've been talking about what to do with Philip Grubauer. And what I will say now is placing Philip Grubauer on waivers. Is brutal on multiple levels. Brutal. And the writing has been on the wall. Yeah, I'm going to have to break this down in another episode because I will spend, I have so many thoughts. But Philip Grubauer, reassignment, we'll get into it on an episode between Wednesday and Thursday. I'm actually recording today's episode a little bit later because I was delayed with travel and then needed to catch up on some rest. So Philip, oh my goodness gracious. Like, it's not funny. It's not even remotely funny, but I don't know how else to react to that. Coming off of the heels of, again, a 6-4 loss to the Anaheim Ducks in a game that the Seattle Kraken needed badly. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to hear from Dan Bylsma. We'll hear from Brandon Montour and Ellie Tolvanen and try to understand what is happening with this Seattle Kraken hockey team, because it just is a mess. This is a mess of a team right now. It's a mess of a team. It's a team that knows that it's a mess and yet somehow can't get it together. And it's the wildest thing. I also want to read a comment regarding the power play and regarding coaching in the power play. I think it's a good comment. And like I said on yesterday's episode, I don't have the answers right now. I do think that we need to be at least open to criticizing the coaching staff. And I mentioned yesterday that Jessica Campbell is a part of that, given her responsibilities. But there are other things afoot here. And I don't think you can realistically say that it's only a coaching issue or it's only a motivation issue. There are multiple seemingly compounding issues with this Seattle Kraken team, and they lost to the Anaheim Ducks. Not playing particularly well, but, here is what Brandon Montour and Ellie Tolvanen had to say about some of the defensive breakdowns that now, in no small part, contributed to sending Philip Grubauer or placing him on waivers with the hopes of sending him to Coachella Valley.
Breakdowns on the back of the net, gave them chances, and they capitalized. It's tough to no matter who you're playing, it's tough to keep a game going when they're scoring 5-6 goals. So clean some stuff up.
What do you make of those kind of breakdowns in the defensive zone where they are those kind of backdoor tap-ins or kind of open one-timers? What do you think led to some of those?
I really don't know.
That's it. Thanks, Sylvie.
Thanks.
I mean, I'm with Tolby. I really don't know either. I really don't know. Because everyone who spoke after yesterday's game talked about backdoor goals. I've talked about backdoor goals since the beginning of the Seattle Kraken. This is not something new. This is not a Dan Bylsma era issue. This is inherently a Seattle Kraken issue. And for whatever reason, that was also frustration. So if he knows and he just didn't want to divulge, or it's not worth getting into, or he literally doesn't know, I can't speak to. He did not respond to what are some of the defensive breakdowns. Why is this team not showing up on defense? It's endlessly frustrating. Again, we'll talk about Philip Grubauer. I have a lot to say about Philip Grubauer. I don't want to do it here. Philip Grubauer, as I mentioned yesterday, did get the start. It's a back-to-back. Speaking of back-to-backs, I think I have this for later down in the show, but I got to talk about it now, right? Terrible stats. Let's just talk about it. Terrible stats. The Seattle Kraken are 8-0 in the second game of a back-to-back. Oh, 8-0. The Seattle Kraken are outshot in the second game of a back-to-back, 30-12. 30-12. This team cannot be consistent. Cannot. This team cannot win 2 back-to-back games. They can't do it. And of course, Piper and some other people asked about, well, the fatigue factor and things of that nature. And you'll hear from Dan Bylsma later addressing those questions. But what's the excuse for the other games when we're not on a back-to-back and we're still flubbing defensive assignments? We are having one period at best where we show up to compete and then it dissipates just like that. You have to look at the coaching staff. You have to. I have to tell you this. I'm not saying that I like having to say this, but I have to say it because that is a coaching staff's job. To motivate, to empower, to provide firm but fair feedback on things to do. Now, if someone isn't responding to that, I was watching actually Remember the Titans on my plane back home. And there was this thing that one of the players says, one guy's like, well, that's a really bad attitude. And the other guy goes, well, attitude reflects leadership. I think that's too simplified. And it also seems a little out of place to put that squarely as the problem with the Seattle Kraken. But I can't ignore that could be some of what's happening. Ultimately, the issues that continue to be prevalent for the Seattle Kraken are fixable. They're unnecessary, and they reflect a lack of discipline. And unless I am very wrong about the character of the coaching staff, this is something that the individual players as well as the collective group have got to solve. I don't know that. I mean, I say this only because mathematically speaking, I suppose the Seattle Kraken have a chance at the play. I can't even say with a straight face. I guess they have a chance at the playoffs. How can you take this team seriously to be a playoff contender at this point? Like, how can you take them seriously to be a playoff contender? It's laughable to think that a team that played the way they did against the Anaheim Ducks can get it together and be a playoff team. Where's your pride? Where's your sense of contractual obligation? Like, your job is to support the Seattle Kraken in winning hockey games. And when I continue to hear defensive breakdowns, we just got to be better. We're not starting on time. This, that, and the third. What are you fighting against? Does that make sense? What is this team fighting against? Is it the coaching staff? One or all of the coaches? I don't know. The rumors, and Ron Francis addressed the rumors head on. I mean, what else was he going to say, right? I think we talked about this. Maybe you give some stick taps and kudos for him getting, as someone said in our comments, maybe not ahead of it, but addressing it, addressing it from his perspective, but that's kind of saving the brand, right? Why would reports like that come out? Something is very off with this team. I just don't understand how a team that seems so lunch pail blue collar just a handful of seasons ago, seemingly out of nowhere with a higher price tag, can't find the motivation to play defense. Can't find the motivation to keep the puck in the offensive zone on a 6-on-5. What? What is happening with this team? I really want to know, because I feel like I've exhausted frustration, toxic positivity, and the benefit of the doubt on this team. And nothing has yielded the results that are necessary to reach where this team wants to go, let alone to show me that this is a team that has their stuff together. There's trouble somewhere. A healthy team, chemistry, communication, I don't think struggles this hard on the basics. Now, we struggled with the basics in the first season. I mean, you look at that roster comparative to today's roster. We struggled last year, but look at the injuries. Not that we're not without them this season. No Eberle, no Yanni Gourde. But there has to be something really wrong with this team. There's some toxic something. I just don't know what else to believe at this point. I don't know what else to believe. And I don't know that I want to exercise brain muscles or waste more time talking about what may be. I want to know what is happening with this team. I want to know what's happening. And it needs to be fixed. Because we made a coaching change and it's not fixed. We made a goalie change that makes Philip either a guy that goes somewhere else for free. He doesn't clear waivers, which we'll find out in a few hours. Or the most expensive goalie that we have in the AHL. And you know what I haven't brought up yet that is also frustrating? Is that this would be the second season in a row it's like, oh. This would be the second season in a row where the Seattle Kraken have a wildly overpaid goaltender playing in the AHL. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with this team. I don't know what's happening. Do you know what's tell me in the comments. Do you know what's happening with this team? I truly want to know. Because I'm pulling out hair. I am scratching and picking my brain, trying to figure out what could possibly be the reason that this team is underperforming other than they're not stepping up to do the job. Which at the end of the day, I'm not saying there aren't other factors, but at the end of the day, that's on the list. Whether you like it or not, this team, this roster is not performing as they can, as they have, and as they should if they want to be a team that is serious about being a playoff team. There's no way the habits, the lack of internal intrinsic motivation or drive or discipline is gonna cut it. I don't know what they think this is. There are no participation trophies in the National Hockey League. You show up, and if you don't, well, we know because we're seeing it. I don't even know what to say anymore without sounding like a broken record, without pointing fingers in the blame game, because at this point, there's something wrong. There's clearly something wrong. It's someone or a multitude of people that are making this a situation where the Seattle Kraken cannot perform. I mean, I just don't understand. If it's not that there's a toxic situation somewhere, then what is the reason that this team can't get it? You lose games. Of course, you're going to lose games. It's the National Hockey League. This is pro hockey. Of course, you're going to lose games. You're going to get bad calls. People are going to get injured. People are going to get waived. People are going to get traded. People are going to get fired. But dang if I know how we got here. I mean, I have strong thoughts and feelings. But I need to know for sure. How did we get here? And what is this front office gonna do to fix it? Been saying for a while, you cannot look at what's happening with the Seattle Kraken and not have questions for the front office staff. Can't happen. I know. We'll be back after this sponsor break. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And of course, FanDuel has you covered because there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. And the live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field. And the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets from the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to fanduel.com to get started. Just bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, welcome to this extremely frustrating, dare I even say, depressing episode of Locked On Kraken. We lost to the Ducks. Oh, man. You know, and I'm not the only one who knows that this is a failure. This is a failure. Ellie Tolvanen and Brandon Montour had more to say post game. Let's take it to them.
Yeah, well, I think coming in the game, they're 1 point behind us. Now they're ahead of us in the standings. So I think that's we knew that these next two games going to be really important. It sucks. I felt like we kind of gave the game away.
Lose the game, we move on, but especially these games, in order for us to be close or have a chance, we got to win these games, and we did let another one slip. Just simple things, awareness, just letting guys open. Obviously, they had a couple backdoor one-timers that, it's tough for Gruby to see those. Again, just awareness, clean some stuff up. Every time we make a mistake, it seems like it's in the back of the net, or our goalies have to make big time saves. So again, anytime you let up 5-6 goals, it's tough to win those games.
I mean, he's not wrong, but that's so frustrating. Like little things that we have to clean up, but you haven't cleaned them up, and you lose to the Anaheim Ducks, as we heard from Ellie Tolvanen. Now the Seattle Kraken in the Central, in the Western Conference, the Seattle Kraken are behind Anaheim, as Ellie said, a point behind, because we lost. We could not find even 1 point against the Anaheim Ducks. The only teams behind us now in the West, the Nashville Predators, 43 points. The Chicago Blackhawks, 37 points. And the San Jose Sharks, 36 points. The Sharks, who we have lost to already this season, minus 57 goal differential. Blackhawks, minus 39 goal differential. Predators, minus 26 goal differential. Anaheim Ducks, as I mentioned yesterday, they don't score a lot. We gave them 6, including an empty netter, but we gave them 6. They are minus 28 In goal differential, the Seattle Kraken are minus 15, 22, 27, and 3, 47 points on the season, a 452 win percentage. I mean, the only team that we are ahead of when it comes to the division, the San Jose Sharks. This is not what this season was supposed to be. So somebody has to answer for this. We made Dave Haxtell do it in the offseason. Who will answer for this? Who's answering for this? Who's answering for this? I want to read this comment from YouTube. I thought this was going to be more structured, but now I'm just kind of going off because I don't know where else to go. Rachel Andrews, Bilesma's power plays are mind-bogglingly uncreative. Try to set up a one-timer. If not plausible, pass again to the winger. Continue to pass around until you get aforementioned one-timer from the point. Every defender on the planet sees it coming. Shots get blocked and cleared. Repeat every single time. So nauseating to watch. His system doesn't work. He makes zero effort to change it, and the players take the blame for poor execution. I do think there's something to be said as I've mentioned it even before yesterday's episode, but I really leaned in yesterday. You have to look at the coaching staff and the system setup. I will say, I somewhat agree with this. And I need to look at the film more closely again. But when Shane Wright had his reset and came back, when the season started, the power play did not look as you described in those two. So in the beginning of the season, and then specifically when Shane Wright came back, I don't think that is how the power play looked. Over time, yes, it's become, like you said, uncreative, predictable. And here's the thing, whether you want to say Dan Bilesma, Jessica Campbell, any of the other coaches, maybe except Steve Briere, whoever you want to hold responsible for on the coaching staff for the power play. And I think that there's accountability there for sure. How do I want to say this? Why would we blame a coach for the roster on the ice not being able to hold the offensive zone on the power play or on the 6-on-5 on 5-on-3s? At some point, it's the execution that at minimum is also a problem. Passing for the Seattle Kraken has looked at times very sloppy. This isn't a rec league. It's not a house league team. This is a team from the National Hockey League. At what point are we going to hold the players accountable for, even if the system is bad, for not being able to execute simple plays? If it's a simple system, I get what you're saying about the defense, and the defense, yes, does impact how the team passes. But if you watch the Seattle Kraken, they make unforced errors a lot. That's the coach's fault? That's the coach's fault? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm truly finding it difficult to find the words to describe how I feel and to reflect on this team right now. Mostly because I've said everything that I know to say. Talked about Philip Grubauer. We're going to talk about him again tomorrow. Talked about passing. Talked about defense. We've talked about board battles. We've talked about, oh gosh, we've talked about, and anyone who's an everydayer or an OGer knows, I cannot stand when a team scores a backdoor goal. I can't stand it. To me, that is sloppy, lazy defense. How many times have I ranted about players puck watching and not sliding into position to occupy the free space? Those are massive problems. And if you can't do that 5-on-5, and if you're not moving on the power play, yes, you become a predictable, easy to defend team. We don't fight nearly enough. We don't fight nearly enough. In fact, there's a stat for that. There's a few of them. Puck battle win in this game, 59% for the Ducks, 41% for the Seattle Kraken. We've had games where the opposing team won the puck battle percentage with a 80+ percentage puck battle. What? 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 What is going on? What is going on? And who is going to say the things that need to be said in the way they need to be said to get this team on track? Who's going to do that? Or who's going to take actions? Placing Gruby on waivers? It doesn't solve the problem. That, first of all, if you were going to do that, you should have done it a while ago. Because again, I feel like the writing's been on the wall. And I'm not even talking about just this season. I'm talking about this could have been something that was done a while ago. Now you're embarrassing the guy. Like, how long have I been talking about this? How long have I been talking about this? And so now what? Ruby's the reason that we lost this game? No. No. No, he's not. Not a quality start, but it wasn't for either team. Now the goals saved above expected. Negative 2.6 for Philip Grubauer. 17 saves on 22 chances. It's not great. It's not great. I think the circumstances, how it went down, it's kind of embarrassing. And I'm not saying that it's not a thing that needed to be done. I don't understand why you do it now. I don't understand. Not great. Not great. Not great. To get a power play, 1 of 3 on the power play. Perfect on the penalty kill. So there you go. Entry denials 57% to 47% by the Ducks. Zone exit percentage 87% to 80 for the Ducks. Again, that puck battle win, don't like it. Puck in the offensive zone 5-on-5, 43% for the Seattle Kraken, 33% for the Anaheim Ducks. Shot attempts 45, Vince Dunn leading with 9. Shot quality overall 3.9 comparative to 2.4 for the Ducks. But when you don't do the little things, when you don't build good habits, when you cannot close out games, this is what you leave yourself open to. And here we are. The Seattle Kraken, speaking of San Jose, will host the San Jose Sharks on Thursday. Oh my goodness. What version of the Seattle Kraken are we going to get in this game? I don't know. That's why they play them. We'll get into a little bit more coming up on Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Attending NFL playoff games is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. Now, I personally have never been to an NFL game. I don't really have many plans to be at an NFL game, but I do hear the ticket price, even for the nosebleeds, is in the multiple $1,000 range. So if you're going to invest in something, you want to make sure you got exactly what you need. And that is also why I like Game Time. You can check out the seats, view from your seats, but there's also a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time today. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Kraken fans. Oh, I have a headache. And I can't believe I committed to talking about Philip Grubauer for a whole episode, because that's going to be a doozy of an episode. Anyway. Got to turn the page. That's obvious. The 2 out of 3 resets here, taking on San Jose. Lessons learned from this game. I don't know that it's any different from what we've been talking about. So maybe pay attention to what you've already said and committed, and that you already committed to doing better. Maybe do what you say you're going to do. Maybe that's my biggest takeaway for tomorrow. If you look at natural stat trick, really, the Anaheim Ducks built that momentum beginning late, or excuse me, I guess you could say late in the first, but going into the second. And the Seattle Kraken continue to have struggles closing out games. Dan Bosma spoke a little bit. Let's hear what he had to say about this game.
We were anticipating a game of which, if we gave pucks away or gave them too many free opportunities, they would counter with their skill up front, but also their D-men. And I don't think, I don't think the first was a comfortable period for us. It was too many opportunities for them with their Russian skill to come back at us, and we had some answers for it with some goals of our own, but it manifested itself more in the second period with the clear turnovers with the puck. We knew we needed to make it a hard game. We knew we needed to grind one out back to back, and we played too loose with our execution, too loose with the puck, and created a rush game, created a high event game, and that was one we knew we'd have a tough time winning, and so that is the biggest disappointment of how this game went. I think your energy is all mental, and so yes, the mental side of it, really more being prepared to play the type of game we needed to play, prepared to execute the way we needed to execute to have success in the game was where we came up short.
Dan, back to the goaltending for just a moment. You said that Gruby got hung out to dry. Do you think that happens disproportionately more when he plays compared to when Joey plays for some reason?
No. She's got one.
What kind of a response do you expect from the room after a game like this?
I'll just say I like the response in the third. We're certainly having a conversation in between periods and conversation of how we're playing, and the response I thought the response in the third was really good.
I mean, just one word about Philip Grubauer, who, again, we now know on waivers with the expectation or the intention to go to Coachella Valley. I'll do a bonus episode. I really want to get into that because I have a lot of things to say. It might just be another rant like this one, but we've been talking about this time and time again. I mean, he said, I like the response in the third. We've seen that before, but show up. Why does this team, presumably, I don't know how the message was delivered, but if I had to guess, it's kind of lighting a fire under the tush, if you know what I mean. I got to keep this, family friendly, but I have a lot of other choice words and phrases I'd like to use to explain what is probably the conversation happening in the Seattle Kraken locker room. Or at this point, I almost hope it's the conversation. But if it is the conversation that I think it is, or that it should be, why isn't it penetrating into the minds and thus into the muscle memory and the execution on the ice? What is happening with this team? I do not understand. And if I'm this frustrated as a podcaster, I can only imagine how the players feel, how the coaching staff feels, and yes, how the front office feels. But what is this team, what is this franchise going to do about it? And so you place Philip Grubauer on waivers. So is your answer to run Joey Daccord into the ground? Where are you getting another goaltender? What is happening? And you have a Vezina finalist that you're sending down to waivers, or sending on to waivers and down to Coachella Valley, assuming he gets through, probably will. How is that the best use case for what we valued him at? And who Are we doing, is Stetska coming back? Is he going to get games? Because I told you 08-0 in back-to-backs, and we have more coming up. We've got at least one in March and another one in April. You need 2 goaltenders. It's kind of a thing. You've said since the beginning of this franchise that you would use 2, and this franchise has done nothing to eliminate the inevitable that happened today by placing Philip Grubauer on waivers. I think there needed to be a move for Philip Grubauer. If I would have put FanDuel betting money, I would have never in a million years guessed that this team would place him on waivers. In the middle of the season. Before wrapping up how I always wrap up and leaning more into gratitude and all of that, the only question, and clearly not just the question of the day, but the question of the existence of this franchise, what is going on? And what are you going to do to fix it? Tell me. Tell me how this team moves forward. Playoffs all but a dream for this season. And I don't even know how we can expect realistically to think that there is any hope that this team will find its way there next year or with any consistency unless there are major changes. And you've already made a coaching change. Are we going to get another one? Are we going to get a front office change? Are we going to start sending folks other places through trades? What are you going to do? I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. It's a hurry up and wait game with the Seattle Kraken team, and I'm tired of it. It's you can't take it serious. I don't. I don't take it serious. I mean, am I overreacting by saying this is an embarrassment? I don't take using that term lightly. And it's difficult because there are things that should be able to work here, but they're not. And my take is that this front office has not connected the dots and put the pieces together and laid a foundation that will yield success. And the players right now, despite whatever else may be going on, at the end of the day, you are responsible for your competition level. The compete level is basura. For those maybe not familiar with the Spanish language, that's trash. The compete, the consistency, the discipline, the pride, nowhere to be found. I don't even know what I said. I don't know what else to say. It's just a mashup of things that we've already talked about ad nauseum on this show. What? The Anaheim Ducks, knowing we need 2 out of 3, and we need wins in the Pacific Division. What are you afraid of? What is holding this team back? I need to know. I need to know. And I need to know who's going to fix it. More so, how it's going to get fixed. Oh, man. Today was a little bit of a wellness day for me. I needed to get some rest. Really weird travel situation. So, again, apologies. This is going up a little late. We'll have a lot of content coming up between Wednesday and Thursday, depending on what time zone you're in. Be kind to yourself, man. Because this Kraken stuff is Kraken crap. We're back to crap. It's like crap pile is pretty high here. I'm calling Kraken crap all day. This is not good. This is not how a healthy yet struggling organization operates. I don't know that I can say that that's the case right now. That's my heart. Is it a hot take? I don't know. I don't know if it's a hot take, but that's where I'm at right now. So please do what you got to do to be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Regardless of the truth bombs that I believe I dropped here on the podcast, we still hold fast. We still stay true because there's potential here. It just needs some TLC, tender love and care. So we'll hold fast. We'll stay true. And we say, let's go, Kraken. It's a game day tomorrow. So I'll have that for you. I'll dive more into the Philip Grubauer thing. We'll know by the time I do that extra episode if he cleared waivers or not. I would imagine that means that we'll know what other moves the Kraken made or will make. Like, this is so bizarre. But here we are. Until the next episode, a head scratcher if I ever. Peace out, everybody.